Zuri, an 8-year-old girl with bright eyes, ran across the yard to catch up with her best friend, Amina. Bet you can't catch me, Zuri called over her shoulder, grinning as she sprinted past the mango tree. I'm faster than you, Amina laughed, chasing after her. But before Zuri could respond, she heard her mother's voice calling from the doorway of their hut. Zuri! Amina! It's getting late. Time to come in for dinner. Reluctantly, Zuri slowed down and waved at Amina. I'll see you tomorrow. Zuri turned toward her house where her father, Papa Niage, was standing outside talking to a tall man with a broad smile. The stranger wore bright clothes that looked new and expensive. His hair was shaved close to his head, and he had a warm, inviting smile. Papa, who's that? Zuri asked, frowning with curiosity. Papa Niage turned and smiled at his daughter. This is Uncle Bayo. He's visiting from a faraway village. He's come to stay with us for a while. Uncle Bayo leaned forward, offering a hand. Hello, little one. I'm Uncle Bayo. Your father has told me so much about you. Zuri hesitated but shook his hand. Hello, she said softly. The man's eyes sparkled, but something about his smile felt too smooth, too practiced. She didn't like the way he was looking at her. You've got a good girl, Niage, Uncle Bayo said, still smiling. Zuri quickly ran into the house, feeling uneasy. Over the following weeks, Uncle Bayo returned to the house often. At first, his visits were casual. He'd bring small gifts for Zuri. A shiny toy car, colourful beads, even a beautiful necklace made from polished stones. Zuri couldn't help but be fascinated by the gifts. But with each new item came a feeling of discomfort. One afternoon, Uncle Bayo came to visit again. This time, he brought a carved wooden bird with brightly painted wings. He handed it to Zuri as she played outside. This bird can flap its wings when you wind it up, he said, his voice smooth like honey. I thought you might like it. Zuri took the bird hesitantly, but before she could say anything, Uncle Bayo added, Tomorrow we could go to the river, just you and me. I'll show you something really special. Zuri's heart raced. I'm not supposed to go to the river alone, she said quickly, holding the bird in both hands. Mama says I should never go without her. Uncle Bayo smiled, but this time there was a glint in his eye. Don't worry. I've known your parents for a long time. They trust me. You can trust me too. Zuri didn't respond. She didn't know what to say. Her instincts told her something was wrong, but she didn't want to upset Papa Niahe. He always seemed so happy when Uncle Bayo was around. So she stayed silent, her heart heavy with confusion. That evening, after dinner, Zuri went to Mama Zuri's room. Mama, I don't want to go to the river with Uncle Bayo, she confessed quietly. He keeps asking me to go with him, but something about him makes me feel strange. Mama Zuri looked at Zuri with concern, her face softening. You did the right thing by telling me, my dear. If something doesn't feel right, trust your heart. We'll keep a close eye on him. The next morning, Aunt Kimi, Papa Niage's sister, arrived in the village. She was a wise woman, known for her sharp intuition and no-nonsense attitude. She had heard rumours about Uncle Bayo and his frequent visits, and she wasn't sure about him. At breakfast, Aunt Kemi sat down at the table with Mama Zuri and Papa Niage. Zuri could see the tension in the air. Aunt Kemi's eyes kept flicking toward Uncle Bayo, who was sitting across from them, talking about his travels. I've been to many villages, you know, Uncle Bayo said smoothly. I've seen things that most people only dream of. Aunt Kemi didn't seem impressed. It's nice that you've seen so much, but I think we should be careful about strangers. There's something about you, Bayo, that doesn't sit right with me. Papa Niage chuckled nervously. Come on, Kemi. He's just a man trying to make friends. He's harmless. But Aunt Kemi wasn't convinced. Maybe, but I've seen men like him before. Always too charming, too generous with their gifts, and always a little too interested in the children. Zuri's heart skipped a beat. Aunt Kemi was right. Uncle Bayo had been paying a lot of attention to her, always bringing gifts, always smiling at her with those odd, glinting eyes. Later, Aunt Kemi pulled Zuri aside while Mama Zuri prepared food in the kitchen. Zuri, I need you to promise me something, Aunt Kemi said seriously. If Uncle Bayo ever asks you to go anywhere alone with him, you must say no. Understand? Zuri nodded, her stomach turning with unease. I will, Aunt Kemi. I promise. That evening, after Uncle Bayo had left, Mama Zuri and Papa Niage had a quiet conversation in their room. Zuri could hear bits of their discussion through the walls, her ear pressed against the cool clay. Niage, I'm really worried about Uncle Bayo, Mama Zuri said in a hushed tone. He's been coming around too often, bringing gifts, trying to be close to Zuri. It's not normal. Papa Niare sighed, clearly frustrated. You're overreacting. Bayo is just a traveller. He's harmless. He's been kind to us. Mama Zuri's voice was firm. I don't care if he's been kind. I'm not comfortable with the way he behaves around Zuri. We have to do something before it's too late. Papa Niage hesitated, clearly torn between his loyalty to a long-time acquaintance and his wife's concerns. I'll talk to him tomorrow. I'll make it clear that he should respect our boundaries. The next day, Zuri was playing near the village square when Uncle Bayo approached her again. He smiled and waved, but Zuri felt a shiver run down her spine. She could see the look in his eyes, the way he scanned the area, as if checking if anyone was watching. Zuri, I was wondering if you'd like to go for a walk with me, Uncle Bayo said, leaning down to her level. Just you and me, down by the river. Zuri took a step back, clutching her doll tightly. I can't. I promised Mama and Papa I wouldn't go anywhere alone. Uncle Bayo's smile faltered for a moment. Oh, but you're such a brave girl, Zuri. I'm sure your parents wouldn't mind. After all, I'm family. Zuri shook her head. No, Uncle Bayo, I don't want to go. Just then, Aunt Kemi arrived. She had been watching from a distance, and as soon as she saw Uncle Bayo with Zuri, she stepped forward, her eyes sharp and alert. Is there a problem here, Bayo? Aunt Kemi asked coldly. Uncle Bayo straightened up, but his smile had vanished. No problem, Aunt Kemi. I was just talking to Zuri. Well, it's time you left, Aunt Kemi said firmly. You've overstayed your welcome. That night, after Uncle Bayo left in a huff, Zuri overheard another conversation between Mama Zuri and Aunt Kemi. I'm telling you, Niage, Aunt Kemi said urgently. We need to do something. Uncle Bayo isn't who he claims to be. I've been asking around, and no one knows him from the other villages. He's a stranger, and he's up to no good. Mama Zuri nodded. I feel it too. Something's off about him. We need to act fast. Suddenly there was a loud knock at the door. Zuri's heart skipped. She peered through the crack in the door. Uncle Bayo was standing outside, his face hard. I'm leaving, Uncle Bayo said, his voice low. But remember this, Niage. You won't be the first village I've visited. You'll regret turning me away. Mama Zuri's face went pale, but Aunt Kemi stepped forward. You're not welcome here anymore, Bayo. Leave now, or you'll deal with the entire village. Uncle Bayo's eyes darkened, but he turned and walked away without another word. The air felt heavy as the family bolted the door. Word of Uncle Bayo's strange behaviour spread quickly through Ibado. Aunt Kemi wasted no time sharing her concerns with the elders of the village. By the next morning, a meeting was called in the square and almost everyone gathered. Elder Olumo, an old man with a long white beard, raised his hand for silence. Aunt Kemi has brought troubling news, he began. This man, Uncle Bayo, has been acting suspiciously. We must decide how to protect our children and our village. Zuri stood with her parents, clutching Mama Zuri's hand tightly. She could feel the tension in the crowd. Uncle Bayo is no friend, Aunt Kemi declared. He is a deceiver. I've spoken to people in nearby villages and no one has heard of him. He shows up with gifts, charms the children and disappears. Who knows what he's planning? Murmurs spread through the crowd and fear grew. Elder Olumo nodded gravely. Then, it is decided. If he returns, we will confront him. Until then, we must watch over our children closely. The villagers agreed, and a plan was set in motion to keep watch. Zuri felt safer knowing everyone was looking out for her, but deep down, she was still afraid. Days passed, and Uncle Bayo didn't return. The villagers began to relax, thinking he had left for good. But one night, a chilling event shook the village. Zuri was fast asleep when she was awoken by the sound of whispers outside her window. She crept to the edge of her bed and peeked through the curtain. There, in the moonlight, was Uncle Bayo, standing in the shadows with a small boy from the village, Kofi. Zuri's heart raced. She couldn't hear everything, but she caught the words, "Come with me, and I'll show you something amazing." Kofi nodded, and the two began to walk toward the forest. Without thinking, Zuri ran to her parents' room. "Mama! Papa! Uncle Bayo is taking Kofi!" Mama Zuri and Papa Niaje sprang into action and Papa grabbed his lantern. They ran out of the house, shouting for Aunt Kemi and the other villagers. Soon a group of men and women, armed with sticks and torches, followed Zuri's family into the forest. The forest was dark and filled with eerie sounds. The villagers moved quickly, their torches lighting the path. Zuri stayed close to Mama Zuri, her heart pounding. Suddenly they heard Kofi's voice. "Uncle Bayo, I'm scared. Where are we going?" "Don't worry," Uncle Bayo replied smoothly. "We're almost there." Aunt Kemi raised her hand to signal silence. "We must surround him," she whispered. The villagers fanned out, creeping closer until they saw Uncle Bayo standing near a clearing, holding Kofi by the hand. "You won't hurt him," Papa Niaje shouted, stepping forward with his lantern. Uncle Bayo froze, his eyes narrowing as he realized he was surrounded. "This is none of your business," he hissed. "It is our business when you threaten our children," Aunt Kemi shouted. Uncle Bayo let go of Kofi and raised his hands. "I was only taking him to see the fireflies," he said, his voice dripping with false innocence. "No more lies," Elder Olumo thundered, stepping into the clearing. "We know who you are. You're a predator, preying on the trust of families. You will leave this village and never return." Uncle Bayo's charming mask slipped. His face twisted with anger, but he knew he was outnumbered. Without another word, he turned and disappeared into the darkness of the forest. The village celebrated Kofi's safe return, but the events left everyone shaken. Uncle Bayo's true intentions were never fully understood, but one thing was clear. His presence had been dangerous. Elder Olumo addressed the village the next day. "We have learned an important lesson. We must always trust our instincts and protect one another, especially our children. Let this be a reminder to remain vigilant." Zuri felt proud of herself for speaking up, and Aunt Kemi praised her bravery. "You are wise beyond your years, little one," she said, hugging Zuri tightly. Life in Ibado slowly returned to normal. The children played freely once again, but they were always cautious of strangers. Zuri often thought about Uncle Bayo, wondering where he had gone and if he would try to deceive another village. But she also knew that Ibado was stronger now. Together they had stood up to a threat and protected what mattered most. And from that day on, Zuri always trusted her heart, knowing it would guide her in times of trouble.